The number one regret of people on their deathbed is that they wish they'd live a life true to themselves and have not lived a life that others expected of them. So the next question is, how do you live a life true to yourself? How do you be authentic? You'll hear this all the time. Be true to yourself. Be authentic. But what you don't hear so often is, how exactly do you do that? Now, I just want to caveat this little rant with, I'm not talking about the capital S self or the capital M mind. I think the very nature of consciousness in the universe is that is unknowable, because the nature of consciousness is to continually explore and to understand itself. And to do that, you need the unknown. As E. E. Cummings, the great poet, said, that is the mystery that keeps the stars apart. I'm talking about this fragment of your soul that has come into this body in this incarnation to express something. Now, you might not believe in that, that's fine, but I'm sure if you look into your heart, you will feel something in there which is beyond measure. You'll feel potential and beauty that at your greatest moments, you know you have in you, but you just can't seem to express it. That's what I'm talking about. And that's desperately, desperately what the world needs from every single one of us. Now, how do you get there? This is some random guy sitting in an empty room. So if you're happy to take advice from some random dude sitting in a large empty room, I'll dive into it. The first thing is you have to realize that you've been brainwashed. That's the first thing. You've downloaded values and beliefs from your culture, from your parents, from your schooling, from friends. Now, not all of these values and beliefs are bad. Many of them will be very good, dependent on the circumstances you grew up in. Yet, unless you examine them and question them, they're not actually yours. They belong to other people or other entities. And more often than not, they're a means of control. In fact, they are 100% controlling your life. And how have you been brainwashed? Well, from 1 to 7, you're in a state of theta, which means you're just downloading everything. You have no ability to discern what you're taking in. You're just taking it all in. That's why the majority of us are moderately fucked up. And you'll realize, you usually in an argument or something, you sound exactly like one of your parents. Well, that's your downloading. The great sense of humor of the divine is that your frontal lobe doesn't come online until you're around 25, which gives you the ability to, I don't know, I'm just being approximate here. Obviously, there's a bell curve, but that's the part of your brain that gives you the ability to think critically about the things that you've downloaded. The great irony is that generally by that age, we're already very well set in our patterns. And the values and beliefs that we have, we just assume are the very fabric that make our reality, that we just think are just the way things are. And you can see this all over the world. The majority of the conflicts we have are because people have been indoctrinated by their culture to believe whatever ideology, whatever religion that it may be, makes them uniquely who they are. Yet that is about as far from who they really are as you could possibly get. I'll run through 3 values and beliefs that I have questioned in my own life that have dramatically helped me become more in touch with who I am, become more true to myself. Now, the problem with a lot of these values and beliefs are that we don't even see them because they're so embedded into the culture and into the way we are. So if you're born in the West, you most likely will have some part of you will have a value system and belief system that your value is derived based on what you can produce, what you do at work, the things you've done, your status, the things you can buy. And if you think about that, that is the perfect belief set to have in a system that we have of capitalism. And look, I'm not ragging on capitalism. I don't have any issue with the idea of creating value and people exchanging energy, money for that value that's been created. Yet Ideally, it's a system where the things of value which are being created are genuinely of value and not just meaningless things that are trying to fill an endless hole that can never be filled through materialism. Another discussion, not going to cover it here. But if you're tied to those things, if you're tied to getting external validation based off what you do and what you can buy, then just inquire into that. Does that make you feel very good? I mean, the whole point of most marketing is to stoke some sort of insecurity about you not being enough. So you not feeling enough and then seeking external validation off mostly probably strangers. That's a slippery slope to some sort of neuroses and definitely running your life based on what other people expect and expectations from other people who've not even questioned their own values or beliefs. I can speak to this because I was very much in that. And it's not to say I'm good, I haven't transcended that. I like also being acknowledged for things. It's nice when people acknowledge things that you put out into the world and you have positive feedback, for sure. But the core of my identity and who I am does not rely on that for me to feel secure, safe, loved. These are things that you can, to be honest, the things that you can only give yourself. So where in your life are you seeking validation based on what you produce or what you can acquire? Number two, and it's a great shame in my eyes that we live in a current culture that this is just, for the most part, that I can observe has fallen by the wayside, and that is telling the truth. Telling the truth. And the first person you need to tell the truth to is yourself. You need to be able to be honest with yourself. Because if you're not honest with yourself, then you're living in a complete delusion. A complete delusion. And you can argue we're already living in a complete delusion, but you don't want to add some other delusion on top of the mire, which we're already inhabiting. And yet, look at all the role models we have. We just expect politicians to lie. We expect big corporations to lie. And the majority of people, including myself, I used to think it was fine to lie, but I'll tell myself only on the small things. It was fine to tell small white lies. That was fine. It wasn't harming anybody. Yet there's a really great saying in Zen: a man who can steal a grain of rice has already stolen the kingdom. So if you're happy to lie about the small things, you inevitably end up lying about the larger things. Yet truth for yourself and for others is the greatest gift that we can give to one another. You'll never know what deep and meaningful friendships are if you don't surround yourself with people that have the same value of telling the truth. And you might say, well, I don't want to tell the truth because I'm sparing somebody's feelings. Again, inquire into that. Are you really sparing their feelings? Or are you sparing yourself from feeling uncomfortable with their emotions and how they might react? Are you telling a white lie because it's convenient rather than actually just explaining quickly the entire story? Or you're worried about being judged? Because if it's done from convenience, if you're running your life because you want the most expedient, convenient thing, that is a slippery slope to hell. Because nothing that is of self-worth, authenticity, and real value in this world comes from convenience. Convenience is the killer of those things. And not telling the truth is also the killer of authenticity. So you have to tell the truth. You just have to tell the truth. And yes, I'm not talking capital T truth. Like, what is truth? Truth can be very subjective. Yet, if you're somewhat moored in a greater reality, if you've at least done the first step of understanding, are you seeking external validation and you're inquiring into your beliefs, your truth is going to be coming from some clearer part of your being. And how else are we meant to help orientate one another in our own lives and grow if we're not being told the truth. We'll forever be stuck if we're not told the truth. It will make everything a lot easier. And the people in your life who cannot handle that, then they're not meant to be in your life. People who can handle it, well, they're the ones who are the true keepers. And if I think back, the people who told me the truth in my life now, as hard as it was to hear at the time, I have the utmost respect for them. And the people who took the convenient route and lied to me, I have very little respect for them. Also, at the time, I have no real respect for myself, because no matter how much we like to kid ourselves, we know there's some part of our being that knows when somebody is lying to us. So that is also a case of you not valuing yourself enough to speak up and let them know that you know that you're being lied to. And third, one of my favorite values, which probably have a number of you just scrolling right off this, but this is something that I inquired about quite young, and it's, I just don't feel that I have the right to take another being's life. So we already have the value in the majority of cultures around the world, if not all, that taking a human life is not okay. That's a value. I just extend that to all beings. I don't feel that I have any divine right to take the life of another being. It's not my place. And you find too, once you begin this process, that the pillars of your other beliefs, so for me, the pillar of telling the truth of myself, when I saw footage of what happens to animals in abattoirs and all the incredibly cruel and horrific practices that are inflicted on these beings, I couldn't unsee that. I would have to lie to myself to pretend like I hadn't seen that. I would have to shut down my heart and create some sort of cognitive dissonance in my mind. But because I had the value of telling the truth, how could I do that? I can't do that. So the decision to not kill animals, and subsequently people just talk about diets, it's got really nothing to do with diets for me. I don't really give a shit. It just so happens it's also very healthy for you. But I don't even bother getting into debates with people about the health side of it, because for me it's not negotiable. I am not gonna kill another being if I can help it, whether directly or indirectly, if I can avoid it. Now, you might be sitting there going, "Oh, well, that's nice," and I'm not telling you what to do, but I will highlight something. Now, Melinda Joy, who's a great activist for animal rights, coined the phrase carnism, the belief of carnism. So this is such a embedded and unquestioned belief in the culture that we do have the right to kill animals. We are allowed to take life. It's our divine right. So if you don't have the belief that you shouldn't take life, then you have the belief that you should, which means you have a belief of carnism. So either way, you're operating within a belief system. And as I said, I'm not telling you what to do, but you do want to inquire and see what is true for you. Because ultimately, your authentic self, your true self, is found when your thoughts, words, and actions align. And you'll stop bobbing around like a cork in the ocean, swayed by whatever way the current decides to take you in whatever time of day, whatever month, whatever year, whatever decade, whatever era. And you start to become someone who's charting your own ship. And the seas will get rough, but you will find a way through if you are charting your own course for your life. The final destination, that final dock. You won't say that your biggest regret is that you didn't live the life true to yourself. And I can only wish for you and myself that indeed we are just looking forward to the next grand adventure.